my name is Bill Bradley. I'm an extreme endurance athlete, and this is my video newsletter. The topic of today's newsletter is swim with the sharks. I was recently having lunch with a friend of mine, and we were talking about how my 6th attempt of the English Channel is coming up. And he said, "Aren't you afraid of sharks? Are you afraid of being attacked by a shark out there?" I said, "No, I'm not." I said, "They actually only have bottom-feeding sharks over there, and there's nothing to be afraid of." I said, "Why? Are you afraid of sharks?" And he said, "Yes! Heck yes!" I said, "Why? Do you watch Shark Week?" And I didn't know this answer. Heck yes! I watch Shark Week. I've watched every one of them. I wouldn't miss one of those. I said, "Well, why do you watch that?" He goes, "Well, I want to know who my enemy is. I want to know everything about my enemy." I go, "Well, how's that working for you? Do you swim in the ocean?" "Heck no! I wouldn't put my toe in that water." I may use a slightly different approach. I believe in totally guarding my mind. I don't want any of that crap on there. That stuff is all under a microscope. They blow it, it's blown way out of proportion. The odds of these things happening are super, super rare. And that's my belief. That is my belief. And so anyway, I don't watch that stuff. I do not watch that stuff at all, like zero. I don't watch anything. If I see anything that's coming on TV that's going to freak my brain out or cause me fear, I don't watch it. I don't watch it. I can't afford to put that stuff into my subconscious, not with the type of events I do. I can't afford to put anything in there that's going to cause fear in there at all. Zero. I live in a bubble up there. It's a bubble. It's a safety bubble. Nothing. I don't put anything in there that's fearful, that causes fear in there, that I can help it. Anyway, so I had an event coming up. I had an event coming that I've done in the past, a couple years ago, that I put this to test, my theory about not watching Shark Week. And so anyway, it's called the Extreme Hawaii Triathlon. And what I did was I swam from Lanai to Maui, a 10-mile open ocean swim. I biked 300 miles on Maui, and then I ran 120 miles on Maui. So right around that time, right before I went over there was this huge rash of shark attacks. They were going on like crazy. It seemed like every week on the news was another shark attack. And I don't even watch the news, but trust me, everybody knew I was going over there to do this event, so they couldn't wait to tell me about the shark attacks that were coming up, that had happened. And so what I did, my approach, because I was doing the event no matter what, is number one was first I talked to my buddy Bob, and I was talking to him first just about swimming it, right? And so, and he's been over there a lot of times, and he also has the record for swimming under the Golden Gate Bridge the fastest. So I really respect him, and he really, he mentors me in a lot of this rough water swimming. And so I said, "Bob," I said, "Well, what do you think I should start?" He says, "Well, Bill, I think you got to start at 6 a.m., about an hour before dark, so you get out by, we were estimating I'd probably be about a 6-hour swim, and so you get out by noon." And I remember, and then he says, "Well, and then to get more facts on the thing, you should call up this race director over there. He's a friend of mine, and they do it's like a relay. It's mostly relay teams, and then there's a couple solo swimmers that do this 10-mile swim from Lanai to Maui. It's a yearly thing, and you should call him and get his advice." So I remember I called him up, and I asked him, and the first thing, and he, I was asking him about the swim and stuff, and he said, "Well, what time are you thinking about starting?" I said, "Well, Bob suggests I start at 6 a.m. He goes, 6 a.m.? He goes, "That's when the sharks eat. You can't start at 6 a.m. And so I remember I called Bob back. I said, "Hey, Bob, I talked to your buddy, man." He said, and I told him we were going to start at 6 a.m. He said, "You can't start at 6 a.m. because that's when the sharks eat." And then Bob goes, "No, they don't. That's when they sleep, Bill. They're sleeping at 6 a.m. Don't listen to him." He said, "You have to get out of that water by noon. You have to get out of that water by noon. So you got to start at 6 a.m. You got to get out of that. That water is going to be really rough. There's 30-mile-an-hour winds kick up in that afternoon." He said, "Those swimmers are all usually out of there by that time. You're not fast enough to be out of there by that time. You have to start at 6 a.m. So I said, "Okay, I'm starting at 6 a.m. I agreed with Bob. I had to make it before the wind. Even I was more afraid of the wind than the sharks. But now let me tell you, so there was these attacks going on. It seemed like weekly for about 2 months. And I was right in the middle of these things. And so I remember there was an attack like 1 week before I went out there. And so I remember it really had everybody on edge. I remember one of my crew, we were going over in the morning or the day before to kind of see what the swim looked like on the boat. And we went over to Lanai from Maui, and then we came back and we jumped in, he said you want to jump in and swim a little bit. And I jumped in, I swam a little bit. I remember one of my crew guys, he jumped in, and it was like he was jumping into boiling hot water. He jumped in, and he popped out like unbelievably fast because there was no way that he was going to be in that water for very long. Not with those sharks. I know that's what he was thinking. And so anyway, so the next morning, 6 a.m., Bob's time to start. I remember the boat. We had the boat. We went over there, like I said, really early. And then we had the boat, and then there was supposed to be a kayak right next to me. The kayak that would feed me and throw me my water with a couple of my people on my crew. And the boat pilot goes, hey, we're the kayakers. And my crew goes, well, he goes, we're going to start at daylight. They didn't even want to be in the water because the feeding zone, the supposedly dusk and dawn is the main time that the sharks feed. So they did not even want to be in the kayak at dusk. Of course, the boat pilot, he took care of that. He says, get in that kayak. I don't want to hear any of that crap. Get in there. And so I said, yeah, get in there. I said, if I'm going to be in with those sharks, so are you. But anyway, actually, what I really did was I took when I went out there, it was important. I knew that it was important for me to be calm. So my things that I figured out that in that race that I was talking about, that 1,000 people had done that race over the years. We mostly relay teams and some solo swimmers, and they had never had an attack, And then also, I talked to one of my buddies who's a surfer over there and a diver, and I said, aren't you afraid of being attacked by a shark when you're over there? And he said, no, I'm not. I said, why? What do you think? This is the most important thing to me, is I want to know what he thought, because he's not afraid. He says, well, I think that there's much better things to eat than me in the ocean. And so I said, oh, I like that thought a lot. So I remember as I was wading into that water in the dark, I kept thinking, there's much better things to eat than me in here. There's much better things to eat than me. There's this kayak right next to me. That looks really yummy. Just kidding again. But anyway, so I thought that, and I went in totally, I was really calm when I went in. And I remember Mariko, like I think at daylight or whatever, she said she looked over into my eyes and she said she saw zero fear, which also made her feel better. But the reason I had to have zero fear, I had to have zero fear. Number one is I didn't have Shark Week fear in my subconscious. I had zero of it, and I also had prepped myself, with all these facts. So I knew that I had nothing to be afraid of. And it was important because I really believe that if you have fear and you send that fear and you're shaking, and you got fear in you, they sense that fear. Those sharks, that's what they come to. They feel that vibration of fear through the water. So it was totally, totally important for me to keep that, to have no fear when I was in that water, be super calm. And that's what I did. And I finished that swim in 6 hours and I kept all my parts. Most important thing. And the kayakers kept all their parts. Anyway, and then after that, we started on the bike and the run, and this whole event would take 7 days. Well, after a couple more days, I'm out there, and I'm out on the bike, actually, and my crew pulls up, they pull out this newspaper. They go, look at this, Bill. There was a shark attack, another shark attack. And it talked in the newspaper how there was another shark attack, and the guy had died this time. But it was 2 days after I got out of the water. So anyway, I think the main thing is that you is guard your mind. The main message here is guard your mind. Don't put crap in there, that's going to cause all kinds of undue fear and illogical fear and cause your mind to freak out. You can't afford to have that in your subconscious. And then secondly, get the facts. And then swim with the sharks. If you get the facts, swim with the sharks. Anyway, if you're interested, you can follow me on Facebook or Twitter. If you have any questions for me, you can email me at epicbillbradley.com. If you would like me to talk to your team, your group, your organization, or your company, also email me at epicbillbradley.com. And I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe to my YouTube account too if you get a chance. That is great because we want to, if we get more subscribers and YouTube starts recognizing us, that's a big deal on the YouTube thing. And if you like this video, push that darn like thing down